You don't have a real job. My mother said to me on a Tuesday morning, like it was just a fact she was stating out loud, like the weather. You sit at home on your laptop, watching your sister's kids for a week won't kill you. I want you to understand something before I go any further. I have been a freelance UX designer for 4 years. I have deadlines. I have client calls. I have a contract with a healthcare startup in Austin that explicitly states I deliver a full design system by the first Friday of November. My mother knows this. She has known this for 4 years. She just doesn't believe it counts. My sister and her husband had booked a trip to Cancun. 7 days, all-inclusive, adults only. Good for them, genuinely. They have 2 kids, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and they hadn't taken a real vacation since before the pandemic. I have nothing against them going. What I have something against is what happened next. My mother called me on a Sunday, not to ask.
To inform.
Your sister leaves Friday. The kids will stay with you Thursday night through the following Saturday. I pulled my phone away from my ear and looked at it for a second, like it had said something in a foreign language. Mom, I have a major project due the first Friday of November. That's literally the same week. Ada, you can work while they sleep. They're 3 and 5. They don't sleep. You don't have a boss watching over you. You can fit it in. That's the thing about my mother. She genuinely believes that freelance means free time. That because I don't swipe a badge or sit in a cubicle, I am essentially on permanent vacation with occasional typing. No amount of explaining has ever changed this. I've tried. I've sent her articles. I once showed her my invoice history, just to prove I was making real money doing a real thing. She nodded and then 2 months later asked if I could watch the kids for just a few hours on a Thursday afternoon in the middle of my workday. So this wasn't new, but this was bigger. Mom, I can't. I'm sorry, I genuinely cannot do this right now. This project is the biggest contract I've landed this year. If I miss the deadline, I lose the client. That's not a figure of speech. That is literally what will happen. Family helps family. I know. And I love my sister, but I can't do this specific thing this specific week. She needs to find someone else. My mother went quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'll let her know you'll handle it, and hung up. I sat there staring at my wall. Then I picked up my phone and called my sister directly. I want to be clear about this part because it matters. I did not wait. I did not send a passive text. I called her immediately, while I was still on the couch with my coffee going cold, and I told her exactly what I had just told our mother. I love you. I support this trip. I cannot be the one to watch the kids this week, because I have a contract deadline that I cannot move. My sister was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Mom said you were fine with it. Mom was wrong. I told her no directly. I'm telling you no directly right now. I'm not angry at you, but you need to know where things actually stand, so you can make other arrangements. She said she understood. She sounded a little stressed, which I felt bad about, but also, I was being straight with her. She had time. The trip was still 5 days away. She could figure it out. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. The next morning, I woke up to 17 text messages in our family group chat. My mother had told my aunts, my uncle, my grandmother, and apparently 2 cousins I haven't spoken to since a Christmas party 3 years ago, that I had refused to help the family in a time of need. There was a lot of family comes first, and this is so selfish. And one truly iconic message from my Aunt Roberta that just said, disappointing. I read through all of them. I took a breath. And then I typed out a message in the group chat. Hi everyone. I want to clear something up because I think there's been some confusion about what actually happened. I told Mom directly on Sunday that I could not watch the kids this week because I have a major work deadline. I also called my sister directly and told her the same thing, so she would have accurate information and time to make other arrangements. I did not agree to anything. I am not backing out of anything. I said no from the beginning. I love this family and I'm not available to babysit this specific week. That's the whole story. I put my phone face down and went to make more coffee. My mother called 4 times before noon. I let them go to voicemail. Then my sister called. I answered that one. Hey, she said. She sounded tired. I just want to talk this through. Okay. Mom said you've been ignoring everyone. I'm not ignoring anyone. I said what I needed to say in the group chat. I don't have anything to add, Dobby. Is there any way you could just, I don't know, even 2 or 3 days? We could cut the trip short. Please don't cut the trip short. You've been planning this for months. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to find a different childcare solution, which exists. There are nanny services, there are babysitters, there are grandparents. I paused. Mom, for example, is retired. Silence on the other end. She said her back was fine enough for her to drive 40 minutes to my cousin's baby shower last weekend. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying it because I think there are options here that nobody is exploring because they assumed I would just say yes eventually. More silence. I'll figure something out, my sister said finally. I know you will, and I hope you have an amazing trip. I mean that. We hung up. I sat back down at my desk, opened my design software, and tried to focus on the component library I was building for a client who was going to present it to their board in 11 days. I mostly succeeded. By Wednesday, the group chat had gone quiet. My mother had stopped calling. I assumed cautiously that things had been resolved. Thursday morning, I was in the middle of a video call with my project manager in Austin. We were doing a midpoint check-in on the design system, screen sharing, going through feedback, when my doorbell rang. I excused myself for a second, muted, and looked at the security camera feed on my phone. My mother was standing on my front porch with 2 small children and a duffel bag. I unmuted. I am so sorry, I said to my project manager. I have a situation at my door that I need to handle. Can I call you back in 10 minutes? She said, of course, and we ended the call. I went to the door. I opened it. My mother smiled at me like this was completely normal. My niece was holding a stuffed rabbit. My nephew was eating a granola bar and had gotten most of it on his shirt. Here they are, my mother said. I packed enough clothes for the week. There's snacks in the side pocket. I looked at her. I looked at the kids. I looked back at her. Mom, what are you doing? Your sister's flight is at 2 o'clock. There wasn't time. I told you no. I told her no. We had this conversation 4 days ago, and then again in the group chat, and then again when she called me. What part of this is unclear? They're already here. I can see that. My niece looked up at me with her big brown eyes. My nephew had finished the granola bar and was now examining a ladybug on the porch railing. I love these kids. I want to be very clear about that. I love them and none of this is their fault, and it was genuinely hard to look at their little faces and feel what I was about to have to do. But I also knew, with a certainty that surprised me, that if I took those bags inside, I would be teaching my mother that this tactic worked, that she could just show up with the kids and I would fold because I didn't want them to stand on a porch. I would be funding this behavior with my own compliance, and it would happen again and probably get bigger each time. Mom, I said, I am on a work call right now. I have a deadline in 9 days. I told everyone in this family, clearly and multiple times, that I could not do this. You brought them here anyway. I don't know what you thought was going to happen, but I can't take them. You can't just. I need you to take them back to your house, or call someone who can watch them, or call my sister and let her figure out another option, but I cannot be that option. I'm sorry. My mother's face went through about 6 different expressions in 4 seconds. Shock, disbelief, anger, something that looked briefly like guilt but didn't stick. Then she landed on a look I knew from childhood, The frozen, tight-lipped expression that meant she was furious and choosing not to show it in front of the kids. Fine, she said, very quietly. She picked up the duffel bag. She took my niece's hand. My nephew abandoned the ladybug and followed. I watched them walk back to my mother's car. My niece looked over her shoulder at me and waved with her stuffed rabbit. I waved back. I held it together until they were in the car and backing out of the driveway. Then I went inside, sat down on my kitchen floor, and cried for about 5 minutes. Not because I'd done the wrong thing, because doing the right thing doesn't always feel clean and simple. Sometimes it feels like standing at the door watching two small kids get strapped into car seats while their grandmother refuses to look at you. Sometimes it's both things at once, the right call and the hardest moment, and you just have to sit with that. I got up, I washed my face, I called my project manager back and apologized, and we finished the check-in. Then I texted my sister. Mom just showed up at my door with the kids. I couldn't take them. I told her to take them home and find another arrangement. I'm sorry. I know this is hard, but I told you and Mom clearly that I couldn't do this week. I hope you can still make your flight, and I really hope you find a solution. She've read it. She didn't respond. My mother didn't speak to me for the rest of that day or Friday. On Saturday morning, I got a text from an unknown number. It turned out to be my sister's phone. She was in Cancun, her usual number not working, and the message said, "We made it. Kids are with Brad's mom. Everything is fine. I'm sorry for the pressure. Enjoy your week." I stood in my kitchen in my socks and read that text 3 times. Brad's mother, my brother-in-law's mom, who, as far as I could tell, had been available this whole time, and nobody had asked her because they'd already decided I was the answer. I put my phone down and went back to work. I finished the project on Thursday, 1 day ahead of schedule. My client sent a response within 2 hours of delivery that said it was the best design documentation they'd received from any freelancer they'd worked with. And could we talk about a longer-term contract? I said yes. My mother and I have spoken since then. She hasn't apologized. Exactly. What she did was call me on a Sunday, ask how I was doing, and when I said good, actually I finished the project and the client loved it, she said, "That's nice," in a tone that suggested she was filing this information away, which is for my mother a kind of acknowledgement. We're not back to normal. I'm not sure what normal looks like going forward, honestly. But I know this. I said no. I said it clearly, immediately, to everyone who needed to hear it. I didn't leave anyone guessing. I didn't let it be ambiguous. And when my mother showed up at my door anyway, I held the line. That project launched 2 weeks later. I watched it go live from my home office, in my apartment, in the quiet I'd protected. The kind of quiet that other people in my life apparently have a hard time believing is actually work. But it is. It was. And I did it. Some people are still weird about it. My Aunt Roberta hasn't texted me since. My cousin, who left the disappointing comment, liked my Instagram post about the project launch, which I choose to interpret as a white flag. My sister and I had a real conversation when she got back from Cancun. She thanked me for being honest with her up front. She said she wished she'd just called Brad's mom from the beginning instead of letting our mother take over the logistics. I said I agreed. We went to brunch. We split a waffle. I don't hold a grudge against my sister. She wasn't the one who showed up at my door. But I do think about that moment a lot, standing in my doorway, looking at those 2 kids, knowing that every instinct in my body was screaming at me to just let them in and deal with the consequences later, and choosing not to, choosing to believe that my time, my work, my livelihood, and the word no that I had said clearly and repeatedly were worth something. I've spent a lot of years being the one who folds, the one who says, "Okay, fine," because it's easier than the alternative. The one who convinces herself that her needs are smaller than everyone else's. I'm done with that version of me. My name is on a 6-month contract now. The work I do is real. The deadlines I have are real. And the next time someone tells me that my job doesn't count, because I do it from home, I'll smile, I'll nod, and then I'll go back to my desk and do my job. 'Cause it turns out, that's enough.